So, hello everyone. We are waiting a few more seconds. Like yesterday, that session will be recorded. Should be able to see my screen and yep, people joining in. And I also see people from GEA, obviously. That's actually nice. Hi, Dominic. That session will be recorded. Yes, I'm just checking. Oh, Johan, you made it anyway. I know that was a different person who couldn't make it. So yeah, greetings to Poland, to Denmark, to the Netherlands. No, not Netherlands. I want to say Sweden or Norway. Okay, so it's 5:01. So we get started. Let's see how long it takes. Probably not quite as long as yesterday's session for those of you who joined yesterday as well. Yeah, hello to this second keynote for the plant or process plant. The title, as you can see, is how to onboard GEA offices to use AutoCAD Plant 3D and PlantTools. That's a process which developed over several years. And my name is Carsten Beinecke. And yeah, let's get started. I want to upfront say, because there was some misunderstanding from a person who asked me upfront or before the meeting. This is not about project setup and so on. No details about the setup. It's really about the process of onboarding new offices. Of course, we don't share any IP. Don't show any lists and so on. Yeah, like yesterday, it didn't really change. I'm the product manager of PlantTools and responsible for the consulting part of Auxalia for process plant. I have way too much experience, or you can say I do this quite too long. I used to develop. I also was a user. I a trainer, and I'm doing consulting. I started with AutoCAD 9 in 1988. And yeah, now, of course, with AutoCAD P90 and Plant 3D starting from 2009. And yeah, some database experience. About Auxalia, we are a platinum reseller in, just checking, yes, there are some new attendees here, so I will go through that. So Auxalia is an Autodesk Platinum partner. We have over 5,000 customers, over 35 years of experience, 17 employees, and we have 9 offices in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. GEA should be a known company, not just for the GEA people attending here. Yeah, it's one of the largest system suppliers for food, beverage, pharmaceutical sector. And I was not aware, actually, that they are also in farming. I saw that on the homepage. And the picture below shows the divisions of GEA. And the divisions we will talk about, or which are working or were involved so far, started with HRT, or heating refrigeration technologies, and we are now in the liquid powder technologies, or liquid and powder technologies. Okay, so just to give you an overview of where we are, which industries. The agenda is to say a little bit about the history, and then I talk a little bit about the One Plant initiative, or you can say One AutoCAD Plant 3D template. Then I will talk a bit different strategies on how to implement Plant 3D or how to onboard offices, and then the goals, what should be accomplished by that process or that strategy. And then finally, the implementation steps, how we go through the process of onboarding offices or entities. So the history first of GEA and auxalia, so that partnership. It actually started already in 2011 with GEA in the US. They wanted to use Plant Data Manager. We also did some development. That is actually our not placed objects. I mentioned that yesterday. For those of you who joined yesterday, what are not placed objects? Not really important for that session, but in general, non-placed objects are data or objects or of symbols you do not have in your drawings and will not have in your drawings. So just for example, if you have some transmitter for your instruments, which is not shown as an instrument bubble, but it is in the project. Yeah, and then during 2012, GEA in the US bought more and more PlantTools. So this is where it started, but it's just essentially using PlantTools. In 2016 or end of 2016, beginning of 2017, we were approached by GEA HRT, specifically from Poland, and we went through their requirements, and I will explain the process a little later. HRT, it started in Poland, Netherlands, South Africa, and so on. There are more locations or offices involved, but they all are part of HRT. In 2019, we started with GEA LPT. So we were approached again from GEA LPT in Denmark with questions about Plant 3D and PlantTools, or questions, and they GEA needed answers to very specific questions regarding project setup and then of course also PlantTools and how PlantTools can help. But starting last year, GEA LPT started with a center of competence. These are offices or locations which are leading in their respective fields within GEA. So we, specific offices who have the competence or are defined as center of competence. We started with a process of onboarding them, So that's a bit about the history. Then this one plant initiative. So the idea was to have it still is, to have essentially one Plant 3D setup. And it's not only about Plant 3D, it's also about, could be other applications, could be PlantTools, but in general to have one aligned global template. And to have also an optimum of collaboration, especially if different offices work together. A part of that is also the reuse of modules or concepts. So concepts are sort of small P&ID drawings or groups, assemblies, whatever you want to call them. Here it's called concepts. These are just modules you can then use when you start a new project, and you copy and paste essentially these blocks, building blocks, skits, whatever again you want to call it. And they are shared either within one entity, but also through different locations, where it makes sense, obviously. But that's a big collaboration part where that can be shared. There is the control of the Plant 3D project. This is handled by a governance group or by a central group, and there is an evaluation process. So if there are new requests because of a new entity or location, then this will be talked about, and the decision will be made, and then the project template will be adapted. That's a continuous improvement of the template, especially. Well, I will talk about this a little bit later to give you an example. And then we have the central adaptation, meaning that this governance group will make sure that all the adaptation is done and will be made available to the other to all the offices. Also, as I mentioned at the beginning of that slide, it's not just about the Plant 3D template. There can be other parts, other applications, an ERP system, or in general some data, some automation, which should also be part of that template to help offices to be more efficient and to participate on the experience of other offices. Strategy. So here we had the initial strategy, and this is where we started with HRT in 2017. And in this case, so HRT works pretty, so the offices throughout global offices, so we had offices in South Africa, UK, I mentioned the Netherlands, Poland, where we met. So we brought essentially all offices together because they work the same way, essentially. They use the same Plant 3D template as well, but also the same, these concept drawings, these building blocks. There are little variations, assemblies, building blocks, or concepts, and they also partly work together on projects. They use the same ERP system, but with different content. That was also interesting. So it was sometimes necessary that the colleagues in the Netherlands helped out with projects in Poland. So this is how it started. In this case, we we started with the Plant 3D template from scratch. At that time, we didn't have this one plant template. So we really started from scratch. And again, that was 2016, or 2017 specifically. So this is how it started essentially. But from that time on, we then started with we call it one location at a time. So we bring in one entity and one office after another. If I say entity, what I mean specifically is, so you have GEA can have a location like in Poland, which is then essentially part of the HRT division. But there are other locations for example, in Denmark, where there are 3 different entities within essentially one building or one office, or one location. So there can be an entity is just a business unit, maybe you call it also. So when we started with LPT or liquid powder technologies, we experienced different scenarios. So each new entity or office had often very or highly diverse from what we had before, highly diverse environments, different. Well, the key factors are here also list the different data flows. So this is actually a very important part. The drawing, okay, yes, but also what happens with the data you create, especially in the PNID. So it's very different in regards to data flows. So what happens, when happens something, and in general the workflow. So for example, who's responsible for what data, and when is the data sent to or purchased, or when is or used for purchasing, or when is it sent to the customer? All these different workflows, the people involved and their responsibilities. It's really highly diverse between the entities, and the projects we experienced are from small sizes to very big global sizes, and the groups who execute these projects, they can also be from small to very big groups, depending, of course, of the project size itself as well. And as I alluded to at the beginning, so we started with the offices or with the center of competence offices. because they had the, let's say, most experience. They were leading in their respective field. So they had a lot of experience in how what they do with the data. And it was then easier to retrieve, let's say, the information for us to make suggestions about how to adapt Plant 3D, the template, and use how to use PlantTools. They also use, of course, different applications, ePlan or different ERP systems, of course, different Excel sheets or Excel implementations. Some have written extensive macros in Excel to help them with the data, and some had just relatively simple data. And so this is the experience. Also, it's really important. This is true every time. If you start asking question about some data in Excel and where does it come from, it often gets really tricky to get an answer. Sometimes it's not quite clear. Anyway, so that's all. Yeah, this is why you really need to go through all the let's say lists which are created and retrieve every detail to make suitable recommendations, and also to compare it with the existing setup. So what's the goal of the strategy? First, it is to adapt and maintain this template, this Plant 3D template, and again, not just the Plant 3D template itself, through the governance group. The governance group, as I mentioned before, considers the requirements of the locations and adds functionality also. So not just the Plant 3D, also, for example, PlantTools, but again, could be some integrated, some standard Excel sheets or whatever, or reports, which should be made available to the various entities. And it's also one of the goals is to align applications to, for example, that they all use A-Plan, or to that for A-Plan there is a certain, or E-Plan, I don't know how to say it in English, but probably E-Plan. So how entities can use E-Plan with, for example, predefined export, so the data transfer is rather straightforward, or making suggestions to an ERP system and how to connect it. And then also similar is then Excel, let's say Excel output. Excel, of course, everyone is using Excel, but with AutoCAD Plant 3D, there are different things to consider. And of course, as most of you know, with our PlantTools, with our Plant Data Manager, we also have a way to kind of, I don't want to say get rid of Plant 3D, but to use Plant 3D, sorry, not to get rid of, to kind of eliminate Excel, at least for data input. So Plant Data Manager would come in handy, but so that is also, it's still a lot of different types of not just the layout of Excel, just also what they do with the data. It's very, very individualistic. And then with that template and all these processes, the idea is, of course, or the goal is to onboard new offices who want to also use Plant 3D and PlantTools, to onboard them faster, so they can use the experience we have here and other entities already made, and can participate, or can participate also, but can use this experience to onboard or to use Plant 3D faster by providing existing solutions. Also very important, that is a question we had last week when I was in Denmark. The question was, does it stop here if we implemented that? And the answer is, of course, not. There are new requirements, either from the industry, because of customers of GEA, because of new technologies, because there is, you could say, for example, using BIM 360 with Plant 3D, or some other industry standard, or some new database, or if I think about SAP, anything. So there are constantly new requirements. And since I'm doing this for 35 years, I can tell you it never ends. It shifts to new. Now the shift is very much to data for several years now. And of course, there's feedback from new entities which are onboarded. So there are new ways maybe to work, or some new feedback, or feedback from entities, which is then shared also with existing entities who already use Plant 3D. Okay, and then this is essentially, if I'm not mistaken, the final slide. Well, almost the final one. And this is how we implement it, or how we then actually onboard these entities. So what we do is we start with an assessment. For those of you who are customers of Auxalia, you probably heard about our assessment. But here the focus is a little bit different. It's less about symbols and tag formats, because that's pretty much standardized within, that is standardized within GEA. But it's more about to assess how they work, what data they have, what data they use, and as I showed here, understanding workflows, data flows, understanding the use of apps, but also Excel, and check if there is any development needed to support a certain workflow, or to support a certain data flow or feature request the entity might have. Then we go back and adapt the template. We maybe adapt PlantTools where they are needed. We show a proof of concept, and we refine the proposed setup. So we will show that, and then we get some feedback, and to get an idea if we misunderstood something, or maybe it is just the way it is. And we also have the experience when we show that. Also, then all of a sudden we are using our PlantTools. The users then all of a sudden see what is possible, and they actually come with new ideas which we try to integrate, or which will then be implemented in a later stage in the timeline. So this is here where we show the solution or as a proof of concept, and we get some feedback to refine the setup. And if this is then done, if the refinement is done, then we hand it over to the entities so they can start with a pilot project. Maybe some adaptation is still needed based on the feedback then from the pilot. Maybe PlantTools need to be adapted. There is, of course, user training, so they can know how to use the template and PlantTools. And of course, there is support. And then the final stage is after the pilot, that, or final in quotation marks, actually in the agenda I had it in quotation marks, implement. So the final stage is then the administrator training. So this is specifically from my point of view, from my point, about PlantTools and how you can customize it without changing necessarily the project setup. Also important for us and for GEA to define key users. There are key users already in the governance group, or in IT, who know PlantTools and what we did with them. And but it is important so GEA itself, or the new entities which are onboarded, can learn about support questions, or how to solve this or that if that comes up within their user group. It doesn't make sense that everyone sends us an email with a support question. Then the knowledge within GEA would not increase. And this is actually a very good example with GEA HRT. Because at the beginning there are a lot of questions, obviously. There's this learning curve, but now they try to help each other to come up with a problem, with a solution, or to identify a problem and then come back to us to talk about, okay, here we have a problem and we don't know how to fix it. And as I mentioned before, this is not the end. So that question came up last week in Denmark of one of the entities where they thought that, okay, if we deliver, then the final customized template and again, with or without PlantTools, that's not the important part. If we deliver, then the template that this is then the end. And it is not, because, as I mentioned before, there are new infos, especially a new entity that cannot have the experience, even if we ask a lot of questions about how they work, and it shifts and it increases with the tools we give them. There are all of a sudden more temptations to use more features, or to use other features, or to use a feature for a slightly different use case. So there are new requirements continuously, and this is a continuous refinement of the process, but also, of course, of the project or of the template itself. And I think, if I'm not, I'm almost on time. If you have questions, you can use the chat, or you can write an email to me later. There will, as I said, the session was or is recorded. There will be an email next week with a link to that recording, also for the session yesterday, or all our sessions during the 3 days here. So no need to send me an email asking for the recording. That will be sent out by an email to all users who registered for that session. Yeah, thank you for your attention. And as it shows here, also there will be an email for an online survey. Otherwise, I wish you have a nice day for the rest of the day, and hope to see you soon. Thank you, Dominic. Thank you, Oliver. More? Yeah. Okay. Talk to you soon.